Welcome back. It's the BetterHalf Show, and we've been having a great discussion today on being on hold when you are experiencing delay in getting married, the pressures, the negative emotions, or sometimes positive emotions that come with dealing with delay. And before we went on that break, we're talking about the issue of making yourself more visible. Sometimes this visibility thing works for you, so you're having many more people, asking you out and, let's go on a date and all. While some other times, you just have a dry spell. Nobody's coming, for a long time. I've asked some people before, when was that time you're in a relationship? Oh, this is sometimes maybe November or December of the year, and nobody came all through the year. Complete dry spell. Which one is really better? Which one is more advantageous? Is it like you're hanging out with the wrong person, or you're just enjoying your life, nobody's disturbing you? Mecca, can you speak to that a bit?
I think that it's nice to have, people around you, even if they are not ending up to be the real deal, But sometimes you see that you're able to withstand the pressure because you have, in my own case, what happened was every time that my parents noticed that I was in a relationship, they cooled off a bit, and I found out that, they were less, picky, they were more accommodating, because they knew that I was making an effort and there was progress being made, right? So those times and those instances really helped me to, withstand, some of the pressures, particularly from my auntie, because on some occasions, what I do is I give the phone to my date at that time to say hello to them. And then once they know that, oh, something is going on, they're kind of happy and they, keep things
So you think having someone to hang out with and all that, being on several dates, can be a coping strategy?
I mean, it was in my own case. I don't know about several, but there were, a few ones. And I didn't go into them playing any games or trying to use that to cope, but it just happened that way. And I had so many friends who were ready to matchmake me. I had, two, particularly very, very aggressive friends who were matchmaking me and setting me up on, blind dates and all sorts of things, But I think that those periods also meant that I was speaking to myself and saying, oh, yes, you're on the right path. At least you're trying, you're making an effort. And, I was in, one or two very meaningful relationships. And it was one of those that led, to my beautiful wife that I have now.
That's interesting. Interesting. Yemi, what was your experience? Dry spell, having the wrong... sometimes some people tell me, PG, it's only married men that are asking me out, and I'm not interested in all that. Or some unserious guys just asking me out. I'll rather be on my own than just, get involved in all that shenanigan. What do you think about that?
I think I speak for most women when I say that it's always nice to have somebody interested in you, whether married or not, simply because it just makes you feel, at least you're okay.
You're still in the market.
Yes, kind of. But the reality, I never really had a dry spell. But I had friends who had dry spells, and you spoke about 11 months. I had friends who had dry spells of like 2 to 3 years.
Wow.
Not one guy saying, hello, how are you? What's your name? And I really can't explain because, you see some of these people definitely more beautiful than you, more, there's no explanation. The one thing I know that I had going for me was that I think I'm a friendly person. And so I always had people around. But I didn't really think I was better off. In fact, sometimes it was more frustrating for me because then I'll come away with each one feeling, maybe it's true when people say I'm bad. And then I have to start doing a lot of self-check to figure out how come out of the 10 men who have spoken to you this year, you can't find half or even, one or half of one to even say, let me, So I'm not sure which is better. I think both are equally frustrating.
But generally
But
speaking,
for your self-esteem as a lady,
it's
it's
better
good to
you have, it helps you to build your self-esteem.
Yes.
And
Yes.
also, like Mecca said, it can also help to cope with the pressure. At least people around you know that some people are around and you're hanging out, you know. But when you then have to go through that dry spell, Mecca, what would you advise a lady going through a dry spell? What would you advise that lady?
I think the dry period is not, the time to be reclusive, and I think that on the contrary, that's a time, to not let it get to you, get up and be on the go, socialize, a lot, because guys are out for friendship, companionship, even though we're still looking at the serious stuff of relationships, and, looking for wife material. But it's still very important to be fun and sociable to be around with. Nobody wants to be around a gloomy person because you're already thinking, oh, this person is going to be nagging me now, I want to get married. So you're thinking about all of that. So the person has to be fun, has to be,
fun.
lively.
So it may not be anything serious,
Yeah.
but just still people to hang out with and be social.
Exactly.
That's a very good thought there. When we come back, we're going to take on some more interesting perspectives to this issue of being on hold. You shouldn't go anywhere. Stay with me, and I'll be right back. Welcome back. It's the BetterHalf Show, and it's been interesting on this episode of the show. We've been discussing being on hold, experiencing delay in getting married, the pressures, the emotions that come with it, and we've been having fun discussing this from different perspectives. Before I move on to some feedback and question from my friends on social media, Yemi, can you share with us, how did you meet your husband?
Okay.
I'm sure many people will want to know how a 43-year-old woman hooked a guy.
I wasn't 43 then. I was 41, I think. So we dated for quite a while.
Okay.
So my friend, somebody arranged a blind date for my friend. And she said to the guy, it wasn't really a blind date, she spoke to the guy and said, I would come out and have dinner with you, but I don't go out alone at night. I don't know you. So I'm going to have to bring a friend. And I was a friend. So he too invited a friend. And so here we're at dinner, having the deadest date you can ever think of. And then my now husband passes by. I'd known him before, but I'd been out of the country for a while. So he didn't know I was back. He passed by my table, said hello to each other. Oh, hello, how are you? Exchanged phone numbers, and that was it. So for me, the moral of the story is, one, the fact that something doesn't work out for you the way you plan doesn't mean that it can't work out. Because like I said, I think really, my friend and I, we still talk about that date till tomorrow. It's the most
Very dead
date you can ever be. We were struggling to have conversation.
All of a sudden, somebody walked in, photobomb, as
exactly. That's how I met my husband.
Wow. That's a very interesting one. Very interesting. So your husband just walked into the place, just passing by.
I was just passing by with a group of friends, actually. They two came out to dinner and we just said hello, hi, and we took it from there.
We're going to take this question from social media, and it's an interesting one. As you get older, is it advisable to lower your standards for a spouse or alter your specifications? Mecca, I want you to attempt the answer. Yeah.
I won't say it's lowering of standards, but there were some adjustments that were made in my own case, I remember very clearly that I was dating somebody one time, and she lived abroad, and I didn't understand, the culture there compared to Nigeria. And every time I traveled, she was more concerned about, expenses control and stuff like that, And I was coming from Nigeria where we could talk on the phone for a long period of time and stuff like that. And every time I used her phone to make calls, she was concerned about, oh, is it T-Mobile? Is it, are you calling somebody? Is it a free call and stuff like that? And I thought that wasn't acceptable, but with the benefit of, in hindsight, I knew, she was just doing the proper thing, It was very expensive call and all of that. So to that extent, there were a bit of adjustments that I made in terms of being more accommodating, tolerating people more. But I had, a few set of values that I never compromised on, and I thought were very important. I still held on to that, while still being more accommodating.
That's interesting. So your values become clearer as such, but you're a lot more accommodating.
Correct.
As you grow older.
That's right.
Yemi, what about you? Did you lower your standard?
As I grew older, I realized that there were so many bad marriages. And because of that, the standards I had when I was younger grew even more stringent. So things that when I was younger I didn't think were important, or, to me they were just, oh, we can work this out. As I grew older, my lists, as it were, became longer. But then again, even from when I was much younger, I never really had the kind of list of the person must be yellow, must be black. Actually, I tell a lie. The person had to be dark. I don't like yellow guys. So I never did. But apart from that, I didn't have all the, physical spec, what's it called? For me, it was more of values and everything. And as I grew older, my list grew longer because I started seeing so many things. And, I got to a stage where I was really thankful that I didn't marry young.
Yeah. So your worldview and your perspective improved, and so you didn't actually lower your standard. Instead of lowering your standard, you increased it.
Yes.
Because the risk became more glaring.
Yes.
That's a very good one. When we come back, I will be saying one or two things that I believe will really, really interest you about the topic of today. So don't go anywhere. Please stay with me, and I'll be right back. Welcome back. This is my wrap-up moment on the show today. I want to appreciate Yemi Popola and Meka Olola for their very insightful contribution to today's episode. As we think about getting married, especially when it looks like you have been placed on hold, a lot of pressure and anxiety and fear of being alone usually come with it. But you need to understand that life operates in seasons. So there's a season to cope with the pressure and just keep telling yourself that my own time is coming. And when you are in that season, there's nothing sometimes that you can do to make the season, not last. Because some seasons have a time span. And you need to accept that, enjoy where you are on the way to where you're going. You need to believe that there is something ahead of you that is greater than your experience today. I also want to encourage you not to allow the pressure to really find a residence in your heart. Because there will be pressures around you, but you need to keep telling yourself, I'm not going to allow pressure, the pressure around me, to lead me in the wrong direction. Desperation is a terrible thing. You cannot make a good decision when you have become desperate. Deal with desperation. Tell yourself, I would rather have a loving relationship, a blissful relationship, than just lower my standard and marry anybody. You also need to understand that in life, as we grow older, our worldview should appreciate and not depreciate. So you need to refine your worldview, your values. If you don't stand for something, you will fall for anything. The fact that you're getting older does not mean that you should fall for anything. Focus on what is happening in your life right now. Enjoy where you are on the way to where you're going, and it's sure and definite that you will someday step into a blissful relationship. Thank you for staying with me on the show today. I look forward to another time of being with you on the BetterHalf Show. And may your marriage and relationships be sweet and enjoyable.